You've run this before. Not the fight. The other thing. The one you do at 2 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, walking through it step by step. What you'd say, what you'd keep, which drawer is yours. You've rehearsed her leaving so many times it has choreography. She hasn't gone anywhere. You've buried her 40 times this year. There is a version of this you would defend. Let's get it out of the way early, because you're going to reach for it anyway. Something happened to you. You gave, and it was taken, and nothing came back. You were kind, and it cost you. And you found out what everyone eventually finds out, that most people care about you exactly as long as it stays free. That's true. That is not the delusion. That part actually happened. Here is the entry in the file. You learned it once, and you never turned the alarm off. Now look at the bed again. Half of it is creased. The other half is smooth, pressed flat, like a room in a house nobody lives in. You didn't choose that half. You just stopped crossing to it. You call this peace. I understand why. It's quiet in here. Nobody yells. Nobody takes. Nobody arrives without warning. But quiet is not the same as free. And I need you to hold still for the next part. You think you stopped paying for people. You didn't. You changed the schedule. There is a payment leaving your account every day of your life. Small. Automatic. You set it up yourself years ago. And you have never once looked at the amount because you have never seen the invoice. I have them here. I'm going to read them to you in order. The first one is cheap. You didn't go cold. You started paying early. First file. It's small. It's supposed to be. A friend called you. You watched the phone ring out. Not because you were busy. You were sitting right there on the couch with the screen face up. You told yourself you'd call back later. Later never arrived. And you didn't think about it again. Except, you did think about it. For about 4 seconds before you looked away, you thought, if I pick up on the first ring, I look like I was waiting. That's it. That's the whole payment. 4 seconds, and a phone left face up. He stopped calling around 8 months ago. Somewhere in there, it went from him calling and you not answering to nothing at all. And you couldn't name the week it happened if I asked you to. And you filed it under proof. He showed me who he was. People leave when it stops being convenient. You have said some version of that sentence out loud. Nobody showed you anything. A man just stopped calling a phone that nobody answers. Second file. The price goes up. You were talking to her. Something real was starting to come up the pipe. Something you had actually been carrying for a while. You got about 6 words in. And then you heard it. That small drop in your own voice. The give. So you stopped. Mid-sentence. You said, "Nothing. It's fine." And you reached for something in your hands and you watched her decide whether to push. She pushed. That time. She doesn't push anymore. You logged that as maturity. You told yourself the two of you had grown past all that noise, that you'd finally reached the part where nobody needs to be managed. Here is the number. Be honest about whether it sounds right to you. It takes about 11 of those before a person stops asking. 11 half sentences. That's a season. That's one bad winter. She isn't cold. She's trained. You did that. Not with cruelty. You have never once been cruel to her. And that's exactly why you can't see it. You did it with a small, kind voice, 11 times, saying nothing. It's fine. And every quiet year, you bank as peace. The woman you built the entire wall to keep gets one step further from the man standing behind it. Those two were cheap. I need you to notice something before I open the next one. Up to here, the price came out of other people. A friend, a marriage. That ends now. The next one comes out of you. Third file. You got it. Whatever it was. The number, the offer, The thing you had been grinding at for 2 years with your teeth together. It landed, and you reached for your phone. Watch what happened next, because it took less than a second, and you have never once looked at it directly since. You scrolled, and there was nobody at the top. Not nobody who would have been happy for you. That is not what I said. Plenty of people would have been happy for you. You could have made 6 calls. There was nobody who was first, because first is a position. First means somebody has a claim on you. First means that when it goes bad, and it will go bad, it always eventually goes bad, they get to ask. They get to walk in without knocking. So you spent 9 years quietly making sure that chair stayed empty, and you were good at it, and nobody noticed you doing it, including you. An empty chair can't be taken from you. That was the trade. Look at what you got for it. You put the phone down, and you sat there in the best professional moment of your life, and you felt nothing. Not sadness, nothing. A flat, administrative nothing. Like reading a receipt for something you already own. You decided you were just tired. You weren't tired. A win that nobody witnesses does not land as a win. It lands as data. So you did the only thing a man in your chair knows how to do. You went and got a bigger one. Because if the number didn't land, the number must have been too small. It was never the number. There was no one in the room. You paid for the funeral. Nobody died. 4th file. This is the one you thought you'd already dealt with. Before her, there was the one who actually left. The real one. The one the whole wall got built after. And when it finally happened, you were fine. Sit with that. Not fine later. Fine that morning. You read it. You put the phone down. You made coffee. You went to work. And you did the whole day. Someone asked if you were okay, and you said yes, and you weren't lying. You have told that story a few times since, and you tell it like it's the best thing about you. That's how strong I am now. That's what it costs to hurt me. I want to give you the actual reading. You weren't strong that morning. You were finished. You had already run it so many times in the dark that the one which actually happened just had a date on it. There was nothing left to feel, because you had already spent it, in advance, alone, at 2 in the morning, in installments, for years. The insurance paid out, and it worked. That is the problem, and I need you to understand why. You never got to choose what it worked on. It doesn't have a setting. Here is the name for it. Write it down, because everything you're going to argue with for the rest of your life is downstream of this. A grief advance is a payment you make on a loss that has not happened yet. You pay it in small amounts. The call you let ring, the sentence you don't finish, the chair you keep empty, the half of the bed you stopped crossing to. Each one is a few cents of a goodbye, paid early, so that when the real bill arrives, it cannot invoice you all at once. Most men who pay it call it strength. What it actually is, a man who has decided the funeral is coming and would rather attend it every single morning than be surprised by it once. So let's do the arithmetic. You like arithmetic. It's the only place you still let yourself be honest. 40 rehearsals a year, 9 years since you built the wall, 360 burials, to avoid one afternoon. You didn't survive the loss. You subscribed to it. Monthly. And the account has never once been closed. Not for a single day. Because closing it would mean believing the loss might not come. And you have not been able to believe that since you were young enough that I could probably tell you the age. That's the ledger. 360. And counting. And she is asleep in the next room. Right about now is usually when you go do something else. You know the move. It's in the file too. It just doesn't have a name yet. Doesn't matter. The reading continues either way. 5th file. This is the receipt. Some night in the last 2 years, you did the count. You didn't plan to. It just started, the way it always starts, at an hour when nothing good gets thought. Who would actually come? Not who would post something. Who would move their week? You stopped at 4. Now here is the part I need, and it's not the number. The number didn't move you. You did that count the way a man checks a tire. 4. All right. And you rolled over, and you slept, and you have not thought about it since, until right now. A man who is still bleeding gets to the number, and it takes his legs out. He calls somebody at 3 in the morning. He makes a fool of himself. He does something. You got to 4, and it read like a stock level. That's not peace. That's not strength. That's the anesthetic doing the thing anesthetic does. You cannot feel the wound, and you cannot feel the count, because it is the same nerve, and you cut it yourself, on purpose, and it worked. You already know the number. That is the receipt. You've had it in your pocket for 2 years. Now, somebody told you this was strategy. Let's deal with him, because he's the reason you're proud of the wall instead of afraid of it. Machiavelli, Chapter 17. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. I'm not going to tell you he was wrong. He wasn't wrong. He was one of the coldest, clearest men who ever lived, and that sentence is correct. I'm going to tell you what it was for. Machiavelli was writing about states, about cities, about holding territory with a garrison, and levying a citizenry, and being obeyed by 10,000 men you will never meet and never touch. It is a document about foreign policy. You took a manual for governing a province, and you ran it on a kitchen. You are administering your own bedroom like it's Florence under siege. And it's working. That's what nobody warned you about. The garrison holds. The gates are shut. Nothing gets in. Machiavelli wrote about kingdoms. You used it on a bedroom. Go stand in the middle of your citadel and look around at what you're defending. The walls went up. The thing inside them got smaller every year. And a man cannot be feared or loved by his own wife. Those aren't the categories. Those were never the categories. He wrote a book about power over strangers, and you have been using it on the 4 people who would come. Now, you've been holding a card since the word grief. Let's play it for you, because you'd play it badly. The Stoics did this too. Seneca rehearsed loss, deliberately, every morning. He called it premeditatio malorum, and it means exactly what you think it means. Sit down and walk through it. She dies. The money goes. The house burns. He lived on a beggar's rations for days at a stretch, on purpose, to find out whether poverty was as bad as he feared it was. So there it is, 2,000 years of the hardest men who ever thought about any of this, running your drill. You're right. Nobody in this genre will ever tell you that, so hear it clean. It is the same exercise. 2 words separate you from Seneca. The first word is what? Seneca rehearsed the loss. She dies. The ship goes down. Fortune takes it back. That is an event, and an event has no opinion of him. You don't rehearse the loss. You rehearse the leaving. She chooses. She weighs 9 years. She decides you are not worth the rest of them, and she walks. That is not preparation. That is a verdict. Every night at 2 in the morning you convene a court. You argue the case against yourself, and you lose. And then you sleep next to the witness. Seneca was preparing for fate. You are prosecuting yourself in advance and calling it philosophy. The second word is when. His ended. That is the entire design. He did it in the morning, briefly, and then he closed it, and went and had the day. He buried a friend, and then wrote that he wanted the memory of that man to become a pleasure to him. He rehearsed losing them so he could come back and hold them like something borrowed, which is what they are, which is what she is. Yours has never closed, not once, Not for 1 hour in 9 years. You didn't take up the exercise. You moved into it. Seneca rehearsed loss to love harder. You rehearse it to skip loving. He left one more line. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. You have read that for years as a warning about other people. It was never about them. 360 times in imagination. Once in reality. He did your arithmetic before you were born. Last file. This one's blank. You fill it in. Same hour, same ceiling, same drill. Run backwards. There are 3 parts, and you already performed 2 of them better than almost anyone alive. 1. Picture the loss. Nothing to teach you here. You are world class. 2. Close it. This is the part you have never done in your life. The exercise has an end. You get up. 3. Go and pay the thing on the day it's due, not the night before. Cross the room, finish the sentence, take the coat off the empty chair, pick up on the first ring, and let it look like you were waiting, because you were. That's the reversal. That's all of it. You don't stop imagining her gone. You stop billing her for it in advance. Now hear what I have not said tonight, because you will misquote me by Thursday. I never said your boundaries were wrong. They were not. A man who lets everyone in doesn't have a house. He has a hallway. I never said the discipline was a mistake. It is the best thing about you. It is the reason you are still standing. And half the men listening to this would trade their year for the way you hold a line. I never said the alarm should come down. The alarm was correct. Someone did take something from you. That happened. Keep the alarm. Here is the entire diagnosis, and it is 1 sentence. You stopped using the armor and started living in it. That's it. That's the whole illness. The tool was right. The tool is still right. You just have not been outside of it since you were 28. And a thing you never take off is not armor anymore. It's a body. Ask anyone who has worn one. Nobody is asking you to stand in a field. You don't tear down the wall. You cut a door in it. 1 door. And you keep the only key, which is exactly what you always wanted, and it costs you nothing at all. You have not done it in 9 years. Emotional strength and emotional isolation feel identical from the inside. That is why you never caught it. Both are quiet. Both are steady. Both look like a man who has himself completely under control. Here is how you tell them apart. It takes 1 second. Strength can be touched and stays standing. Isolation just can't be reached. You have been running the second one and grading yourself on the first. There is a way to run the drill without paying the invoice. It has an order, and the order is the whole thing. Doing it out of order is why most men who try this alone are back behind the wall by spring. Somebody has to keep the count with you. You've had 9 years to prove you won't do it alone. So, the file is read. I'm not going to ask you to do anything. You've been asked before by better people than me, and you were fine that morning too. I'm going to tell you what happens now, and then I'm going to stop talking. Tonight, around 2, the drill starts. It always does. You'll know it by the ceiling. Run it. I mean that. Picture the whole thing all the way to the end, the way you always have, and then close it. And then get up and go across the hall and stand in the doorway of a room where somebody is breathing. You don't have to say anything. There's nothing to say. That's not what the payment is. The payment is standing there long enough to feel how much it costs you to be seen wanting something. That's the bill. It's due now. It has always been due now. And if your hands shake in that doorway, understand what that is. That isn't weakness arriving. That's the anesthetic wearing off. There's a sentence for the comments, and it isn't a slogan. It's a decision. I'm done paying in advance. Everything I just read you was the diagnosis. What comes after a diagnosis is linked below. Nothing in it will comfort you. One more thing, and then I'll leave you with it. Go back and look at the bed. Nothing has changed. The crease is still on your side. The other half is still smooth, still flat, still pressed like a room in a house nobody lives in. I didn't move anything. I can't. That was never on the table. Only one thing is different than it was 20 minutes ago. You know the price now. You'll do the count anyway. That's fine. You were always going to. But somewhere in the next few weeks, at an hour when nothing good gets thought, you're going to be lying there running it for the 361st time, and a small voice you didn't invite is going to say the number out loud. And you'll have to decide whether you're rehearsing or just leaving slowly, with excellent manners. Untouchable is just unreachable with better PR. The other half of the bed is 3 feet away. It has been 3 feet away for 9 years.